teaches you how to get results both personally and professionally. I'm your host, Jean Elsler, also known as the Results Queen. Today, we're interviewing Shelly Hancock. Shelly, say hi.
Hey, everyone.
Hey. Shelly is an expert in, she's an expert esthetician.
Esthetician.
Esthetician. See, I can't always say that word. Yes, she's an expert. And in fact, she's a best-selling author in...
Woohoo.
Yours is upside down there, Shelly.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Yeah, and outstanding results. So Shelly wrote a fabulous chapter in this book, and she's also actually in the moment writing a book of her in her own community that we're going to talk about as well. So we're excited to welcome Shelly to the show, and we're going to learn all about how to get results both personally and in life from Shelly today. Welcome, Shelly.
Thank you so much. I just have to say it's funny that you fumbled over the word esthetician, because lots of times when I'll say to somebody, I'm an esthetician, they'll say, oh, you put people to sleep in surgery? No, that's an anesthesiologist.
Great joke. I love that.
Yeah.
How did you start with being not an anesthesiologist, but how did you start doing that?
Actually, it was kind of strange, and it kind of goes along with our Get Results and my chapter in the book that is when opportunity knocks, step through the door. I had gotten a job in a dermatology office doing computer work. And the third day there, the doctor taps me on my shoulder and he says, you know what I really need, Shelly, is a back office assistant. Can I train you to be my assistant? I had no background in that whatsoever. And I thought, what the heck, this is something different, and he's willing to train me, let's go for it. So the next day I came in with white slacks and white shoes, and they gave me a white lab coat. And this is funny, listen to this. They told me to go back to treatment room number 3 and observe the surgery in process. I'm thinking, cool, I can do that. All I have to do is observe. So I saunter on back there and I open the door to a liposuction on a woman's stomach.
Oh!
Yeah, she's laying back there and I can see the fat coming through the tubes. And I almost faint, and somebody escorts me out of the room. And I'm thinking, a liposuction on my first day? No, wait, maybe a pimple popping or a mole removal. But that's how I started my career.
And then you've gone from there. Think about all the wonderful things you've done. So how did you get to where you are today?
When I was at that job, that was back in 1987. So that was a long time ago. I'm dating myself.
You were 14 years old then.
Yes, I was. Yeah. And they had an esthetician at that doctor's office, which was very cutting edge back in 1987. And I liked watching what she was doing. People always hugged her when she came out of the room, and they came back every month to see her. And I thought, I want that job. How do I get her job? So I quit and went to school. And then I got my aesthetic license, and less than 2 years later, I jumped into buying a business. With no business background. I'd only been an esthetician like a year and a half. I got this opportunity, it dropped in my lap. This lady asked me if I could take over her business, but she needed to know the next morning. So I spent all night long, what do I do? And I said yes, and here I am 29 years later, with owning a spa for all these years, and now what I do is I mentor other estheticians. I help them either start a business or take a business to the next level. And I think it's all because all throughout these years, I always I never had any fear. I wasn't afraid of not succeeding. I mean, I wanted to, but if I didn't, if something failed, it's like, okay, that failed. Let's go try something else. And I think that's why I've moved forward. A lot of people have so much fear. Like when I'm consulting with my estheticians now, it's like, oh, Shelly, I'm afraid to do this. I'm afraid to do that. And I'm like, change your verbiage. It should be, I'm excited to try this. I'm excited to try that. And so, well, if it doesn't work, then you just move in another direction. And it's always worked for me.
Wow. Okay. How do you teach the people who are watching today, our audience, how to have the same, fearless way of being as you have? What do we need to do that?
Yeah, in the beginning, when I was young, I think it was just naivety. It was just like, yay, the world is fabulous and everything's wonderful. In fact, here's a quick story. I like to tell stories. That's how I teach my estheticians. When I was only 18 years old, I moved down to Los Angeles to become a professional dancer, and I worked in I did it for a while. Yeah, I worked in Beverly Hills at a restaurant. And I would roller skate home at midnight to Hollywood from Beverly Hills at midnight.
That seems like
No one could have told me that anything could have ever happened to me. I didn't think there was no possibility. It didn't enter my mind. Now, this many years later, I'm like, oh my word, I would never, I can't believe I did that. But I think it was because fear never entered my mind that nothing ever happened to me. So people that like think and talk about fear a lot, that's where they stay. And so I always just think about what I want things to look like, what I want them to be like, rather than, ooh, I don't want this and I don't want that. Talk about what you do want. And I didn't learn that till many, many years later, but as I've started to really do that, things just come into my life like crazy now. So that's the main thing. Don't sit and talk about why it's not going to work. Talk about how you want it to look like, and then things fall into place.
I love that. So then you really just have to change your language. And if you change your language, you can change the mindset.
Yeah.
Some people, though, are so fearful that they just can't change their language at all. Is there any?
It's tough. I mean, sometimes I have to give people word by word by word on how to do that, and it's not easy because I think we're hardwired as people for the negative. Like, how many times is like there's a possibility of something to happen and you go straight to the negative, and it's only a possibility, but instead of thinking the possibility of something good, we go right to the possibility of what could be bad. And I read an article years ago about how we truly are hardwired, because way back in the caveman days, they had to be on the lookout for danger. So that's how we got hardwired for that, so that they wouldn't die or wouldn't be eaten, by an animal right away. And it hasn't gotten out of our systems yet.
Yeah.
So it takes work.
Yeah. We actually trademarked that in my company. We call it caveman brain.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, we talk about caveman brain, and we talk about how in caveman's days, it was either fight, flight, or freeze.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, there's no saber-toothed tiger to eat you.
Yeah.
Right? So
I don't know. Some of my clients look like saber-toothed. They feel like it's me at times, the way they come at me.
But the fact is that there's nothing that's going to kill you off. I mean,
yes.
Other than death, you could pretty much retrieve anything. At least that's what I believe. So we call that caveman brain in my organization.
But it's like a muscle. You need to work at it. You need to train it, and it needs to be done daily. When my husband and I first started doing this, we would have to remind each other, hey, remember, we're going to think positive. Oh yeah, okay, because it doesn't come naturally to people, I don't believe.
No, I agree with that. Now, do you work with your husband?
We do. We run the business together, and it's so much fun when we tell other couples that. They're like, oh my word, seriously?
Yeah, how do you do that? Like, oh my gosh, give us some lessons on that.
You know what? I don't know if there's any lessons. It just happened that way with us, and we just happened to work really well together. We both have our little niches, that we work well with, and we've just kind of separated it out. And it's fun to travel around together.
Wow. Okay. So, any advice about getting results about working with your spouse? Got any thoughts?
Like, have your areas of expertise and then stay in your lane. Don't try to get in the other person's lane about what it is they do best. I think that's what's worked the best for us.
Really? Interesting. Yeah. All right. Then now let's talk about you being a business owner, because you had no idea how to do it. Now you are doing it. What are some lessons about, for people who are listening who want to become a business owner, or how to take their business to the next level? What's some words of Shelley wisdom?
Well, I will say it a lot because it really is simple. Not easy to do, but simple. It's going back to that verbiage. In my workshops that I do for my estheticians, I always talk about that very first week when I bought that business. And there I sat with a business, not knowing what to do. And I found out why the woman wanted to sell the business, because it was a really slow one. Like, I barely had any clients. But if, all the clients would come in and say, how are you doing? How's everything doing? I wouldn't say, oh, this is a struggle. I mean, I don't know how to I would never say that. It would always be, oh my gosh, things are fabulous. I'm so excited. I can't believe how well this is going. And even if it was Thursday and that was my first client of the week, I would always say to her, I'm so busy. I am just booming with business, because that's the way I wanted it to be. So I'm going to tell it like that. If I would have said, oh my gosh, things are so slow. I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help me out? Who would want to come back to that? Sure. Who would want to tell their friends about that?
Nobody.
Yeah. So you've got to be what you want to be. Ooh,
well,
that's a new one. I like that.
I like that. Can you want to write it down so you can put it in class?
I think so.
Okay, let's take a couple minutes. Everyone write that down. Say it again. You gotta
be what you want to become. What you want to become.
Yeah. How many of us are acting like that?
No. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And I don't know, like I said, I don't know what it was back then. I think it was just my literally back then, my youth and my excitement of doing something new. Now I know differently. I was doing the law of attraction. People talk about that a lot. Like that. I was doing it back then, but I didn't know it. Right. And I grew that to be an extremely successful business. And then in 2005, I woke up one morning. I'm like, I'm exhausted. Running a business is exhausting. You wear so many hats. I think I want to sell this business. I sold it the next day.
No.
How many people sell their business the next day? It was just the frame of mind. I didn't sit around and think about, oh my gosh, this is going to be really hard to sell it. I just was like, I'm going to sell this business. And I did. So I just have always kind of done things that way. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, but I'm sure there are people in the audience who are going like, how do you manifest that? That's not truth. That doesn't work for me. It never works for me. I think about stuff and it never comes to fruition. What do you say to people like that?
That's because they try it twice and say that doesn't work. I'm not going to do that anymore.
What do you mean?
Well, it was really funny because we were talking to some young kids not too long ago, and we were talking about the law of attraction, and they said, oh, I watched the movie, The Secret, right? And they said, yeah, I tried that positive stuff for about 2 weeks, and you know what? I didn't see any changes, so... You got to put some time and energy into it. It doesn't happen like that, you know. I mean, it's been years since we've been kind of studying this whole thing, and then when you get the ball rolling, then things start to just flow in your life, and you're like, oh yeah, and then it gets bigger and bigger and faster and faster. But give it some time.
So how much time do you think you should give it? Like 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 4 months, 8 months, a year?
You know, I believe that if you're really, truly, I'm going to call working it,
okay,
really putting your mind to it, like staying positive in every moment, then I think in 30 days you can make a turn. But how many of us can actually do that? In fact, I do tell another story where like I wake up in the morning and I'm super happy and everything's going great, and I go get in my car and I get out and I'm driving and somebody won't let me in the lane, and all of a sudden I'm like, what are you doing that for? You know, it's like in a blink of an eye, I'm back to my negativity, you know, so we just get thrown off so easily. So you just have to really concentrate. And if you can concentrate and keep the positive going for 30 days, I think you can truly change things.
Yeah, and I guess the question is when you are in that 30 days, because there's a guy named Sean Archer. I don't know if you know, he's about the disadvantage. I just saw him speak. And so he's like, you need to, you know, in order to be more happy, you have to do these 6 things every day for 30 days. Do you know how many days I lasted?
Day and a half.
Then I got busy. I was doing some other stuff.
Yeah.
I think I'm happy enough. I don't really do it. Why? 2 days. I was like, yeah, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
Right? And how many of us do that? Right?
We just don't. We just don't. We don't follow through with things, and then we say, oh, they didn't work. Well, I find that in my aesthetic world. You know, they'll get a piece of equipment, and then they'll call me, 2 weeks later and say, oh, it didn't work. And I said, well, how many treatments did you do? Well, 2.
2!
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I know that you probably have tons of stories where people started stuff and they didn't, get through it. Do you have a story where someone started it and it actually worked so that we can inspire our audience?
Yeah, I do get those as well. And that's what keeps me going. That's the fun part of working in my industry is the phone call, a month after they've gotten their new piece of equipment, just on and on and on again, telling me, in fact, I got a phone call yesterday. This girl was so cute. I love you, Shelly. Oh my gosh, you changed my business and blah, blah, blah. But this girl is really doing the work. I mean, she's taking my training that I've given her and she's going by it. The people that call me and aren't working, I can tell that they haven't read my training. They haven't looked at my videos. So those people that really put themselves out there are going to be successful. And I don't know, are we lazy, or is it the fear thing, or what is it as a society?
Is it both?
I think it's a little both. They get all convoluted in there together, don't they?
Right? So, I think people keep telling themselves they can't do it, and they're surrounded by a community that does support them, right? And then the next thing you know, they go, I'll just do whatever they need to be doing and call it a day.
Yeah, the people around you, right? The people around you are very important.
Yeah, think about the community. Think about when you first started, what kind of community were you surrounded with?
When I first started my industry, nobody. Maybe that was my saving grace. Seriously, I was in this little business. I didn't know any other estheticians or anything. I was just by myself, so I didn't have the influence of somebody else saying, oh, I tried that, it didn't work, I wouldn't do that. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're doing this, that's so scary. I didn't have anybody telling me that. It was just me on my own. So that was probably really seriously a saving grace. nowadays with all the internet and the social media and people on there bombarding with negativity, if you don't separate yourself from that, you can really get caught up in that.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask about this training program because I know it's just for estheticians, not anesthesiologists. And the fact is that, but it sounds like almost anyone could take it. What do you learn in your workshops?
Oh, no, my workshops are geared just for estheticians. I travel around the United States and estheticians come learning about how I started my business, how I grew my business, all the equipment I use, and how I speak with clients. It's interesting how many people you have to help learn how to connect with another person.
Really?
Like they're incredible in the treatment room. They know their stuff as far as skincare. They're book savvy, but they don't have that connection. And especially in our industry, if you don't have that personal connection with person, that client will not stay. They'll go somewhere else.
Really?
I kind of think it's that way in life in general, right? It's all about connection.
Yeah, it is. So then give us some words of wisdom of how we can connect with our customers, because I think most of us don't even know how to do that either. So let's talk about that.
Listening.
I was going to say, what?
Yeah. You say something?
What? What'd you say?
Listening to your client and truly listening. You know, there's so many times when I'll even be on the phone or at one of the big trade shows and somebody will ask me a question and I go to answer the question and I'm about 3 or 4 words into it and they're interrupting me already. So how often do we do that with our clients? And when you do that, they don't feel heard and then they can't connect with you. So after the facial, they'll say thank you very much, but they may not come back.
Interesting.
You haven't allowed that connection.
Interesting. Okay, so that's it. I like that. So you got to listen. Got any other tips before we talk about this fabulous book that you wrote?
I think listening. We'll both do that. And we'll go upside down this story.
Again, like you were like, it's upside down, right?
I think listening is the biggest thing. And then responding as if you truly had heard them. You know, not going off on your own tangent.
Well, I do that all the time, but I guess I'm a good listener.
Those are fun too.
Which is fun too. So let's talk about this fabulous book. Tell us about the chapter that you wrote in this book.
Well, I have to say this was so fun that you approached me last year about doing this because I've always wanted to write. In fact, I write a lot to my estheticians. And I have a radio show, so I write the radio shows out, and I love to do that. And I always wanted to write a book, but that sounded so daunting to write a whole book. So when you approached me to write a chapter, I can't tell you how excited I was to do that. And so I started to write about some of the stories we just talked about here. It's like, how did I put away the fear and just jump when the opportunities knocked? In fact, for my radio show, it was about 2 years ago, I got a voice message at my office that asked me, said, this is Winston from Voice America. We'd like to talk to you about being a radio show host. And I kind of looked around to see if there was cameras in my office, like I was being filmed. And I started to laugh and I hit the delete button. I went home to my husband, I said, babe, I think I was punked today. And then about a week later, they called again. And this time, I answered and I spoke to him. And I just never thought in my lifetime that I would be a radio show host. And I went, yeah, what the heck? Let's do this. I knew nothing about it. And then 2 years, but I did it for about 1.5 years. I had the time of my life. It was so much fun. So I kind of talk about these things that they come into your life and they feel like, oh, I can't do that. Why not? Give it a try. Step through that door. So that's kind of what I talk about in my chapter.
I love that. And then you liked writing your chapter so much that you decided to expand and write more chapters. Tell us.
I did. I actually truly believe that you came into my life not for this book, although this was fun, but it was the whole experience of learning about doing the whole publishing and writing the chapter. And while I was doing that, all of a sudden it came to me one day, oh my word, in my aesthetic industry, there needs to be a book like this with all gurus from the aesthetic industry. And so now we have the Esthetician's Guide to Outstanding Aesthetics coming out in September of this year.
Wow. You'll be able to get that on Amazon.com.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I have to say, we didn't say this, but if people want to listen to your radio show, how do they do that?
They can actually listen to it from ShellyShowandTell.com.
Well, there you go. I love ShellyShowandTell.com.
Yes.
Are you on a weekly basis, or is it?
For 1.5 years, I was on every Monday
Okay.
I'm taking a hiatus right now because, it's a lot of work
Yes.
to write an hour radio show a week.
Television show, I should know. Yes. It's
Well,
all
you and I were just talking about this. Radio's a little bit better because, we don't have to do the hair and the makeup. We can just...
I have a friend who calls it a beauty tax. Like every morning I'm doing my beauty tax. I'm like, okay, that's good. I love it. But, well, it sounds like, Shelley, you go to all these wonderful places. What's the next thing that you're hoping to achieve?
I think right now I've got, my plate is full with having the book. I'm already thinking about book 2, or actually it would be my book 3, correct?
Yes, it would be.
Yeah. So the Esthetician's Guide to Outstanding Aesthetics 2. I'm already thinking about that for next year.
Wow. So it sounds like as a successful entrepreneur, and you always think about your next step. Is that truth?
I think you have to, because if you get too complacent and you stay stuck, I get bored. And in my aesthetic industry, I think the clients will get bored as well. And the industry is growing and changing so fast that if you don't change with it, those clients are going to go somewhere else. Because they're seeing it on the internet now, and they want to know you have the latest and greatest cutting edge equipment. So you have to stay up to keep your business growing.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that. Well, and here's the thing, you can't believe this, but the show is almost over.
No, that wasn't 30 minutes.
It's very close. Yes, it is.
Wow, that was fast.
It goes fast.
Can we do it again?
Yeah, sure. But, come on, we have so much to talk about. It's like, we just need to bring wine next time.
There we go.
Right? All right. So with that said, give us like 3 pieces of advice that you think that our audience should be doing in order to get more results, both personally and professionally.
Well, let's go back to tell it like you want it to be instead of like it is.
I know that was very
super important. I like the words be curious. Continue to be curious about the industry you're in, about your life, about people coming into your life. If you're curious, there's just more, it's more fun. Be playful. I think that people are drawn to the energy of playfulness, and if we're just too serious about everything, it's kind of keeps people at bay. So have fun with your life. Life was meant to be fun, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Enjoy.
And you know what? You can also fake it till you make it. If you don't feel it, you can just fake it, right?
I like that one too.
Yeah, you could do that too.
Definitely.
Shelley, you have been an absolute delight on our show. I'm so
Thank you.
I know we could talk more. In fact, I think we should have a part 2. What do you think?
I love it.
Yeah,
I'm in.
We're going to have a part 2 with Shelley. So if there's any questions you want us to ask about Shelley, you just send them all into us and we'll take care of that. But for the meantime, we want to say thank you so much to Shelley Hancock. Thank you so much for being on the show today. You are awesome.
Thank you.
Welcome. And I want to thank all of you for watching today. It's Get More Results Television. I'm Janelle Siller, the Results Queen. And until next time, get all the results that you want. Thanks so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.